Okay. I don't disagree. So then, what is the opposite of aggressive, though? You're going to just say gentle? Come on. Drill down. What does it mean to be gentle? To be patient. Okay. We're making progress. Okay. All of these make sense. I want to share with you where gentleness comes from. If you go to the biblical Greek, the biblical Greek, the word is praotis. Praotis. And praotis means meekness. It means meekness. Oh, great. Abuna, you gave us another word. What is meekness? Well, what is meekness? What does it mean to be meek? Humble? We're making progress. Humble, okay? What is important about meekness? Where are we going? Say that one more time. Well, yes. However, what do we know about meekness when the Lord talks about meekness? He talks about it, right? That's Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Anybody remember? What does it say? Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Okay. So the meek are the ones that inherit the earth. What does this mean then? What is meekness? Meekness is the strength of disciplined calmness. Listen again. Strength of disciplined calmness. A lot of words in there. When we are gentle, we are calm, like we were saying. When we are gentle, we are disciplined. And when we are gentle, we are strong. Many people think gentleness is a sign of weakness. But the Lord himself was gentle. Okay? The word meek in Hebrew means someone bearing a heavy burden. Why is that the case? Why would someone who has strength in disciplined calmness, why would they be carrying a heavy burden? What do you think? I want you guys to think. This is important to understand. Why do you think everyone looks down on meekness and gentleness? Because they think it's weakness. So why would we say meekness is someone carrying a heavy burden but they're still strong? Anybody know? Here we go. Nailed it. The key is that everybody in the world believes that being strong is being loud and being forceful and being aggressive and being intense. And you have to exert your dominance over another person. Okay? This is what everybody starts telling us. But the benefit of being a meek person is that your strength is in disciplined calmness. You are calm at all times. You're not moved by the moment. But here's the catch. Why is it a burden? Because you're the only one doing it. You're the only one doing it. Everybody else is getting louder. Everyone else is getting more aggressive, more unkind, more forceful. Everyone keeps attacking. But what do we do if we are meek? We carry the burden of their weakness. Their outward projection of strength is an inward manifestation of weakness. Okay? You're loud on the outside because you're not so tough on the inside. So the burden this person is carrying is being the adult in the room. The burden that the gentle person is carrying is being able to restrain themselves despite no one else feeling compelled to do the same. And this is why, as it was said over here, gentleness is humility. Gentleness is humility. Many of us do not think that gentleness has a place in our lives, except for the ones who deserve it. But when we just defined it, it's a disciplined calmness. Do you have to be disciplined in your calmness with people who agree with you? Do you have to be disciplined in your calmness with people who make you feel like you're the most important person in the world? No. None of this is true. Quite the opposite. The strength of disciplined calmness means that gentleness manifests itself in how we treat those who are unkind, who let us down, who know our buttons, and push, push, push. That's how it's humility. So here's what we're going to meditate on tonight. We're going to meditate on how do we live the fruit of gentleness in our lives. How do we live the fruit of gentleness in our lives? And really the story, as we've talked about when we're doing the fruits are not, there are all these hidden heroes in the Old Testament and the New Testament that we talk about when we talk about the different fruits of the Spirit. So we're going to talk about Gideon tonight. Gideon, the story of Gideon in the book of Judges. Because Gideon is the example of gentleness and humility. He is the example that we will follow. And so what we learn from Gideon is the first way to be gentle is to acknowledge you are unequipped. Acknowledge you are unequipped. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys a funny realization that I had very early in my priesthood. When you get ordained, you think that, okay, there's a reason I'm ordained. I don't know what it is, but there's a reason. There's something that God sees that I don't see. And then you spend your first 40 days in the monastery trying to figure out what that is. Okay? I remember, for example, I am left-handed. Okay? Every tunt on the live stream is, oops. If you know, you know. But when I'm left-handed and I do everything with my left hand, if you notice, we do everything in priesthood with your right. Okay. So I think it was like my second week in the priesthood or my first week. And in the liturgy, one of the things you have to do during the anaphora is you have to grab the cross and you have to cross the congregation and then the altar and then yourself. I'm holding the lefefa on my hands and I'm trying to reach for the cross. And I can't grab the cross. So I'm getting frustrated because I have to start praying and the monk who's watching me is watching like, are you going to start? So I start pulling to get it close to the edge so I can grab it. So I grab it and I think I have it and then it starts to fall. So of course I hit it and I hit it and I hit it and I end up smacking the cross all the way across the altar. I'm like, ah! Meet and right. And I remember going home that day and saying, I don't know what, not even home. I went back to my cell in the monastery because there's no going home. I can't even go get comfort at home. I have to sit in the monastery by myself and meditate on it. I'm like, what in the name of God just happened to me? Like, I'm not built for this. I can't do anything with my right hand, and I have to do everything with my right hand. Like, this isn't going to work. And this is like one of like 50 examples. I remember a group of my youth came. Some may or may not be here. The first week I was giving the blood, and my hand was shaking like I had a disease or something because I was just not built for it. I was like, this is really, really, really bad. And I remember feeling like completely unequipped to do the most basic things. And that's not even into take your first confession. You know, be surprised by your first this. Be surprised. You walk around in your first year to 2 years of priesthood, and all you're thinking is, do we even know? Like, are we sure? Are we sure, God? And I'm probably the only one that feels this way. All the other priests are really good at life. I'm just a dumpster fire. That's why you all come see, right? You want to see what the story is. Anyway, but the point is, knowing you are unequipped is a very unique part of the journey of gentleness. Because gentleness is married to humility, right? It's married to humility. Well, what is one of the most important things about humility? Not puffing yourself up, right? not puffing yourself up, not believing that you've got it all figured out. Gideon is a great example of this, because Gideon's story, after there's this whole thing about the Israelites being imprisoned and attacked by the Midianites, it says that the angel of the Lord appears to Gideon and says to him, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Guys, this is no different than you being told the first time, "Hey, would you like we want to ordain you a priest?" Because Gideon has nothing special about him, okay? He's just a dude. He's just a dude. And Gideon said to him, "Oh, my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why has this happened?" So he starts complaining about all this stuff. And the Lord says, "Go in this might of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you?" So he said to him, "Oh, my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house." What is the issue that Gideon is having here? Gideon is being asked to do an unbelievable task and feels uniquely unequipped. He's like, "Dude, I don't know if you know who you called, but I'm going to tell you. I come from the smallest tribe. Like, no one comes and visits us. We're in the middle of nowhere. And I'm the least in my father's. I am the dork that gets wedgies in my own father's house." That's where Gideon's at this point. Okay? I don't think there were wedgies back then, but you get my point, right? And so there is this feeling of not being good enough. Now, I've talked many times in this group about self-love and the importance of knowing who you are. But how do we usually categorize that? You are the daughter of Christ. You are the son of the Most High. Because when things go great in your life, you don't think you're the amazing engineer who crushed it, or the amazing doctor who saved a life, or the amazing servant who blew someone away. You are still the son of the Most High and the daughter of the King. And when things go terrible, and you fail an exam, or you go through a breakup, or you go through a difficult time in your home, you don't think, "I'm a loser and this useless human being," because you are the daughter of the King and you are the son of the Most High. Okay? And so this balance of self-love is also met with the reality of how unequipped we are. I remember when I called my father of confession, for example, and I said to him, "Abuna, I have a problem." He said, "What?" He said, "They want me to be a priest." And he's like, "What's the problem?" I was like, "You know the problem. We talk often." You know what the issue is. And he said something that I'll never forget, and I tell every person who joins a service or goes into anything in their lives this, and if you haven't heard me say it, listen closely. He doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. Because that's what I was told that day. He equips the called. It is the confidence that God is the one working in those moments that gives you the appropriate humility. As C.S. Lewis says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's just thinking of yourself less. By myself, no, I can't do this. I'm not built to solve these problems alone. But with God, who can solve any problem, with God, who is a mover of mountains and a healer of brokenness, anything can happen. But we must first acknowledge that we are unequipped. You imagine if the angel of the Lord showed up and said, "Go in this might of yours, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites." And Gideon's like, "I know. Have you seen my biceps? I'm super impressive. I've got this. Don't worry. Let's grab my spear, a couple of dudes. I'll make these Midianites cry." Can you imagine? There isn't one hero in the Bible who thinks that way. There's not. And we shouldn't either. Anything that you go to do, you start a new relationship, you start a new program in school, you start a new job, you can say, "Lord, I don't feel built for this moment." But you don't call the equipped, you equip the called. So if you brought me to it, you will bring me through it. Give me the Godfidence, not the confidence, the Godfidence, the confidence in you that we're going to be okay. That even if it doesn't work the way I want it to, there is a place you will take me to. And so we have to have this humility. And there are the famous verses in Isaiah. We'll get them up here. Isaiah 55. Sorry, 55, 8 to 9. That's what I thought. I'm just confirming. My thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways. For as the heaven are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For as the rain comes down and the snow from heaven, and do not return there, but water the earth, and make it bring forth and bud, that it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater, so shall my word be that goes forth from my mouth. It shall not return to me void, but it shall accomplish what I please, and it shall prosper in the thing for which I sent it. This set of verses is so important when we talk about gentleness, because gentleness and humility go hand in hand. And in order to be gentle, in order to be able to deal with things in a delicate way, you have to realize you're unequipped. You're not built to handle this problem alone. You are unequipped. And in your unequippedness, can you call on God and ask Him to equip you? So whatever you are going through in your life today, whatever new endeavor you are beginning, whether it's a season of singleness, whether it's a new relationship that is blessed by God, whether it's dealing with a new job or a new program, whether it's dealing with a new problem in your life, whatever that thing is, tell God in your prayer the next time you get there, Lord, I am not equipped for this moment you have brought me to. But if you have brought me to it, you will bring me through it, because you do not forget me, and you use all things for my good. That is being unequipped, and that is the first step to being gentle. Because when you believe you're unequipped, you're free. Like, I wasn't supposed to be here, but I am. So God, this is all on you. What am I going to do? The first thing we do to be gentle is that we are unequipped. The second thing we do is we have to be unashamed. Unashamed. I feel like there's like a season in our lives where we are uneasy and edgy about everything we do. Anything we say, we're worried how it's perceived. And I always wonder, why is that the thing? Why do we get so moved by the opinions of others? What do you guys think? Why do you think we get so moved by the opinions of others? We want to be liked. Can you tell me more about that? Yes, we seek the approval of others. And why do we do that? Makes us feel better because someone likes what we do. Okay, yep. Love that. Don't feel fulfilled in ourselves. And so we crave that affirmation elsewhere, right? So there's this whole thing about being concerned about how you're perceived. And I used to think that it was just when you were like in middle school or high school and maybe some college, because you know, if you do something embarrassing and you get made fun of because people are mean. But what I'm realizing is even as we get older, I see this. But I see that we're ashamed and worried about other people thinking in a very unique way. When it comes to confession, for example, I don't want Abuna to judge me. When it comes to Friendships. I can't have made that mistake because that's unacceptable. In a relationship, the same thing. There's this whole fear of where we've been, what we've done. And what we don't realize is we actually start building these walls between us and healing. Between us and healing. When you live a life of gentleness, you are unashamed. And I'm going to show you the captain of Shameless, our guy Gideon. In the same chapter, chapter 6, and the Lord said to him, surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as one man. Then he, being Gideon, said to the Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, then show me a sign that it is you who talk to me. Do not depart from here until I pray, until I come to you and bring out my offering and set it before you. And he said, I will wait until you come back. I'm going to stop there. What's happening here? The same Gideon who said, I'm not built for this, is now saying something else. Are you sure? He's not ashamed to ask for help. He's like, if I found favor in your sight, then give me a sign. How many of us believe in the concept of vulnerability? Vulnerability, I love it. You can raise your hands. Thank you. That's great. I talk a lot about vulnerability. But vulnerability to this day is still a weakness in so many people's eyes. Because we're afraid of being perceived as weak. If I talk about how I feel, then I'm soft. If I don't keep it together every day, then I am unstable. And I think I won't be liked or loved or cared for. Guys, this is nuts. This is nuts. We suffocate ourselves spiritually by cutting off spiritual guidance. Let me give Abuna a quarter confession. Yeah, Abuna, you know, I did the huge stuffs, lies, Cardi B. That's about it. That's all I got. Everything else is great. You know, it was just that song. She gets me every time. Can you absolve me? Really? It's been 5 years since you confessed. The only thing you've done is lied to listen to Cardi B? Okay. No problem, Mother Teresa. Give me a break. My face. Jesus. Why? Oh, Abuna. Abuna, this is really embarrassing. What's embarrassing? Being raw? What's embarrassing? Being exposed? In the cover of a sacrament? Guys, we're lying to ourselves. We don't buy vulnerability. And because we don't buy it, we die because of it. This can't continue. We have to be unashamed in asking for help. Does that mean you go and ask Captain Falafel next to you, like, what to do every time you have a problem? No. But you need an active relationship with your father of confession. If you don't, get one. Get it done. Not an excuse. Y'all are too grown and too deep into life to not have a father of confession by your side walking through life with you. It's not okay. You need spiritual guidance in your life. When we're with our friends, are we willing to ask for help? Does that mean I need somebody to give me money? No. We always go to the terrible stuff. Like, let's go to the lowest common denominator. Give me money, give me things. If we have appropriate boundaries, there are a couple people in our lives that we can be raw with, right? Do we go to those people? Do we open up? Do we actually confront our feelings? We have to be willing to ask for help. A big part of gentleness is meekness and humility, right? They're tied together. They're all married. There is no one who is humble who doesn't ask for help. The number of times I hear somebody say, I'll figure it all out. I'll figure it out. I just have to stop this sin. I just have to stop porn. I just have to stop drinking. I just have to stop. Excuse me? You and what army? Because the I just have to stop mentality is why you've done this nonstop for 3 years. Does that mean you don't do your part? No, you do your part. But stop thinking it's just you. Stop thinking it's just you. That is stubbornness, that is arrogance, and that will nail you to the floor. And then what do we say? Oh, Buna, I've fallen too far. Now I can't get back up. Here we go. Lie number 1, I got this, God. Lie number 2, I can't do anything, I'm screwed, God. Lie number 3, this is just me. No go. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You have failed. Play Monopoly over, okay? Get your life together. We need to be raw and ask for help. But the other thing we have to be unashamed to do is to submit. And we see that here. Do not depart from here, I pray, until I come out to you and bring my offerings, and I will come unto you until you bring it back. So Gideon went in and prepared a young goat, unleavened bread from an ephah of flour. And the meat he put in a basket, he put in the broth in the pot, and he brought them out to him under the terebinth tree and presented them. And the angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened bread, lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. It's not just asking for help, it's being willing to do the work and to submit. That's the other catch. And that's the other problem that we don't fall into. Is if I don't want to ask for help is problem 1. Problem 2 is I'm stuck. Problem 3 is this is just me. Problem 4 is no, I'm going to make a change. And I go and I talk about it, but I won't do anything about it. That's just too embarrassing. It's just too hard. I heard recently, Abuna, I could never block somebody that I broke up with. That's so cringy. Really, because you're just this master of self-control that you're not going to get overwhelmed and have a weak moment and text that person? It's just weak. Rock on. Winner. Let me know how that works for you. When you acknowledge that you are weak, when you acknowledge that you can't do it alone, that's when you take the real safeguards. That's when you put the real lines between you and sin. That's when you become gentle. Because now you're saying, God, I don't have anything else except for you. I have to depend on you completely. And that means I have to put space between me and this thing. And it may not be what I want to do, but it's definitely what I need to do. So I need you to give me the courage to do what I need to do. That's why we have godly friends and a father of confession. So we can create an accountability circle around us. In the book of Jeremiah, one of the famous verses of the prophet, nope, just kidding. You will call upon me and go and pray to me, and I will listen to you, and you will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. When you search for me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29, 12, and 13. This is the asking for help. This is the asking for help. This is me saying, I can't, God, without you. I can't. This is the manifestation of gentleness. Because I realize I have no shame. I will tell you, when I think about being ashamed of something, there is a healthy shame that comes when you are guilty for a moment. That's really what healthy shame is. Shame that follows you is shame that suffocates you. Shame that you don't tell anybody about. Shame that you allow to go from day to day, week to week, month to month. This kind of shame, this is the shame that suffocates. This is not a gentle person, someone who carries shame. They're not gentle because they're not even being gentle with themselves. Remember, I said humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. When you carry shame, all you think about is you. It's all you think about. There was someone that told me once, Abuna, every time I get in an argument with this person, it's always about what they're not doing. They say, oh, I'm not good enough here, I'm not this, I'm not that. But I'm saying sorry. You're making it all about you, instead of trying to acknowledge and understand the other person and why they feel the way they feel. This is our problem. We don't realize that we think of ourselves more when we carry shame. We think of ourselves more when we don't ask for help. We think of ourselves more when we do things on our own. And we don't realize that on our own shame is this snake wrapping its whole body around our legs and around our waist and around our chest and around our arms and around our neck, slowly suffocating the life out of us. So we need to ask for help, and we need to be willing to bend to get that help. So the first way that we are gentle, like Gideon, is that we are unequipped. We acknowledge that we are unequipped, and we ask God to equip those he called to the ministry they are called to. And the second is we have to be unashamed. Unashamed to ask for help, and unashamed to submit. Last point about this submission thing. If you go into confession and you tell Abuna everything you did wrong and every solution that you have to every problem, and that's the end of it, now absolve me and let me go away, that's not how it works. Okay? If you go in to tell Abuna about yourself and not to learn about yourself, you didn't go to confession to grow. You went to confession to go, to leave. That is it. That's not how it works. So, first is unequipped, second unashamed, and the last one, to being gentle, unafraid. Unafraid. So, in the relationship series, we talked about irrational confidence, right? And I talked about it in a very derogatory way. Is there anything attractive about irrational confidence? What do you think? Is there a good redeeming quality of irrational confidence? Not in the dating world, I promise there's not. Is there? I'll tell you guys a story. So, Khalban Isaac, my little guy is irrationally confident. We've laughed about stoves and all of this, but you know one way that I found that my son is irrationally confident? He will go up to anyone, anywhere, and say hello. It is the sweetest thing in the world and the most terrifying thing in the world as a parent, because it doesn't matter who you are, he will go up to you, he will talk to you. And, you know, at first I used to feel bad because sometimes he'd go up to little kids or to parents and he'd be like, hi. And they want to play. They're doing their own thing. And you can see the parents being polite, but sometimes the kid doesn't want to do it. And I always wonder, like, does he get sad or anything? No. Isaac moves on to the next person. He is the best. If he notices that homie number 1 is not going to talk to him, he's walking over to homie 2 and then homie 3, homie 4. We were at a mall on Sunday, and I think he might have said hi to like 26 people in like a 9-minute span. Okay, a guy he might be the mayor of Irvine, and we just don't know about it. I don't know. Okay, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, this guy's not afraid of anything. Now, granted, Isaac doesn't know anything, right? He's also 2.5 years old, so he doesn't know. But when I think about this unafraidness and gentleness, they go hand in hand. They really do. And we see it in Gideon. Because when you're unafraid, you're just confident in the outcome. Even if it doesn't work, you're confident in the outcome. In the book of Judges, we'll go here and kind of wrap it up, or we'll go, to Judges to take this last point and wrap up the story of Gideon. Verses 15 to 17, after the Lord tells him through a dream what was going on, it says, and so it was when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and its interpretation that he worshipped. He returned to the camp of Israel and said, arise, for the Lord has delivered the camp of Midian into your hand. He divided the 300 men. Now, just so those, if you don't know, if you never read the story of Gideon before, he started this army was like 10x what this was. And the Lord kept telling him to whittle down the army till it was literally 300 people. He divided the 300 men into 3 companies, put a trumpet into every man's hand, empty pitchers and torches inside the pitchers. And he said to them, look at me, and do likewise. Watch, and when I come to the edge of the camp, you shall do as I do. When I blow the trumpet, and I and all who are with me, then you also blow the trumpets on every side of the whole camp and say, the sword of the Lord and of Gideon. Now, I want you to think about that. This guy is going with 300 people to attack an army that is 10x the size of his. And he's telling them, you need trumpets, and you need empty pitchers and torches in the pitcher. And you're going to say a stupid little song. The sword of the Lord and of Gideon, shabinga. Everything will be fine. On its face, that sounds ridiculous. If somebody told me, Abuna, we have to go beat up a gang of people, I need you to just bring the Sharia, and I need you just to say the Sharia of God and of Captain Falafel. I'm like, okay, you go first, call me. All right? I'll pray for you in the hospital. Moron, right? But this irrational confidence that Gideon had was irrational to man, but made perfect sense in the lens of God. When we are unafraid, we are gentle because we're unafraid of the consequences. So much of what we do in life is because of fear. We lie because of fear. We cheat because of fear. We deceive because of fear. We give in to our lust because of fear. We give in to our desires for every vice because of fear. The number of times I hear someone say, I'll never get another chance to do this. I have to be on this trip this summer with this group of people because I will never have this kind of fun again. Sure, you're 14 and you're telling me that your life is over. Rock on. The number of times I hear something, it has to be this girl. It has to be this guy. If it's not this person, then it's not any person. You're going to magically become a monk? Cool. Also funny, right? It has to be this program. It has to be this job because it's right next to this and this works perfect and then my timeline is great and then. It doesn't work. And then what do you do? What do you do when it doesn't work? What do you do? What happens? You get mad at God. You get mad at everybody that messed it up. Sometimes you're like, you know what, God? You think this is wrong? That's why you've closed all these doors? Well, guess what? I've got dynamite. Let me blow it up and make it happen anyways. Let me double down on my terrible decisions. Why? Because letting go means letting God and not letting me. See, we used to say, oh, let go and let God. Until you figured out what letting go really meant. That you actually have to let God work. We actually have to let God do the work in our lives. We have to let God help us find our partner. We have to let God maybe move us from the state that we're comfortable in. We have to let God maybe change our group of friends. We have to let God get us out of a toxic relationship. We have to let God give us a job that maybe isn't perfect. We have to let God. And the number one thing that we can't do is let God. Because letting God doesn't mean letting me. It means I can't do what I want. The more that we obsess over what we want And the less we bend to God, the less we have a gentle heart. We have a hardened heart. Remember, strength of disciplined calmness. Strength of disciplined calmness. What is calmness? You are not shaken by your moment. Do not be shaken by a breakup. Do not be shaken by losing a job, a loved one, a friend group. Do not be shaken. Because when you are shaken, you can't see clearly. Everything is blurred. But when you allow God to stir you, to take this moment and to stir you up, to stir up good works in you, your life changes. I was talking with somebody recently, and we were laughing about how because they have let go, how many things God is doing in their lives, how many things your eyes are being open to. The number of times I hear someone say, when they get admitted to a program that wasn't their first choice, how necessary it was to be there, how formative that moment was. The number of times I hear someone say that I thought it was going to be this person, it didn't work out, and I had to get hurt, but now I see. That if I didn't have a separation from this friend group, I would have never done this. If I didn't move out, I would have never done this. If I didn't come home, I would have never done this. The problem, guys, is you don't want to wait, and I don't want to wait for the end of the story. That's the issue. We keep saying, God, just get me to page 327. That's where I know you tell me that it was, this guy in this city with these people, and everyone lived happily ever after, and everything was perfect. Just hurry up and move the pages. And God says, And he holds your hand if you let him. And then you guys begin to write those pages together. Sometimes you write them in tears. Tears of sorrow, tears of joy. Sometimes you write them in blood. Your own suffering. Or God's suffering watching you fall. I get hurt. Sometimes there's dirt on those pages because you've been to hard places. But when you read that whole book and you look like, and you know what you say? I got to be a part of that. Your story, my brothers and sisters, is uniquely you. Your journey with God is uniquely you. Your history, where you've been, is His story. It's His story. He is writing your story with you. Will you let Him? Will you let Him? When we let go, when we don't insist that God give us what we want, but we ask Him to give us what we need and the courage to accept what we need, this is what changes our lives. This is what lifts our eyes to heaven, what quiets our overwhelmedness. In the book of Job, I love this verse because Job, after he cries and complains to God about how could you screw me over, and God gives this long-winded thing about are you kidding me? Job says at the end, some of the best words ever. He says, listen, please, and let me speak. You said, I will question you, and you shall answer me. I have heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Job is telling the Lord, I heard all about what you are, and all of us have the same life. I know God is a miracle worker. I know God does things that no one else can do. I know that God is a comforter. I know that God binds up the brokenhearted. I know that God heals. I know that God fixes. I know. That's what I heard. But now, because I let go, because I let God do the work, because I crucified my ego in the spirit of gentleness, now my eye sees you. Now I understand every wound. Now I understand every walk, every moment. Now, can I guarantee you you'll know it all? No, I can't. Not till you get up there. But I can promise you that the things that had to happen, that have to change your life, you'll understand those. How many times have we had to hit a wall to be brought to our knees so that we can look up and tell God, you're all I need? This is the power of letting go. And St. Augustine tells us something amazing. He says, God gives where he finds empty hands. When you let go, I want you to think about that, okay? I won't do it with the cross. But my hands are full of stuff, right? Now, if my hands are full of stuff, and then they're not, sum it up. The three ways that we experience the fruit of gentleness. We must acknowledge that we are unequipped. In your prayer, tell the Lord, you brought me to it, bring me through it. Number 2, be unashamed to ask for help. Live the life of confession. Be around God-fearing friends that you can be vulnerable with. And be unafraid. Unafraid to let go, unafraid of the consequences today for the life of tomorrow. When we do these things, we will carry the gentle heart. And only when we live the life of the gentle heart can we start to see the blessings that the Lord has planned for us. And glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. Questions, comments, concerns? What is that? It looks like I can't read that. How do we practically fear God? Is that what the question was? You giving me a thumbs up? Can you just speak? Yes. Okay. You practically fear God. Jeez. Freaking guy, he's in the back corner. I could barely see my hands. How do we practically fear God? We practically fear God. Think about what fear is. Fear is reverence. Fear is reverence. I'll give you a couple of simple things we talk about reverence. For those of you that are single right now and aren't doctors on call, I encourage you to take a challenge on Sundays. Leave your phone in your car on Sunday. That is fearing God. I don't come to this place to take a selfie, to check the news. I come here to actually connect. And if you can't do that, and you want to bring it in for whatever reason, fine. Leave it in your purse, leave it in your pocket, put it on D&D, put it off. But have the courage not to put it on again. That's a practical way to fear God. A practical way to fear God is when you open your Bible, begin with a prayer. Lord, these are your holy words, meant to heal an unholy me. Help me to see what you need me to see. When you talk about how to fear the Lord practically, fear the Lord by respecting your fellow man. Respect is not, sup. Respect is a smile. Respect is hello. Welcome. Nice to see you. I pray things are going well. This is how you fear God, because you fear man. You respect your fellow man. How else do we fear God? We fear God through the life of submission. Are we willing to have someone in our lives that is spiritual guiding us, that we allow ourselves to listen to? That we'll change, we'll bend on? So funny. For y'all's bosses, or your professors, you will jump through hoops. He tells you, I need you to work 9 more hours. I'm here, not getting fired. Professor tells you to write a whole thing about atheism. Okay, I guess so. Well, I'll take off my Christian hat for about seven weeks. So you respect men. A God? 2 hours on a Sunday? Oh, but God's so loving. That person's a jerk. I have to be afraid. Yeah, God's not a jerk. But God knows. God knows if you want to be here or not. He loves you anyway. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to connect with him, you respect him. You respect him. So those are some simple, practical ways. When you're in prayer, when you're in prayer, do your best, even if it's just for a minute, focus that prayer. To focus it, keep the lights off. Keep your eyes closed. Keep your phone away from you. Draw the sign of the cross. Don't just, no. If you have the chance, go the whole way. I promise you, your shoulder won't fall off. You'll be just fine. Okay? These are simple, practical ways that you can talk to God and respect God. Really, really good question. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? Concerns? Objections? Y'all know how this works. If we don't get to 3, and we just start calling on people. Going once. Okay, I'm going to ask a crazy question. Go ahead, sorry. I like that. I said to you guys I don't usually draw. I lied. So, there's a big difference between goals and expectations. When you don't have goals for yourself, you're apathetic. There's nothing that you aspire to do. There's a big difference saying, it's all in God's hands, it's all in God's hands, but you don't do your part. I am planning for Isaac's college fund today. I cannot just say, it's in God's hands, whatever happens, I'm going to go get coffee again, I'm going to get sushi, I'm going to do this. And then one day he's like, well, where's my college money? It's God. You can go blame him. No, I didn't do my part. I got to have a goal, right? Goals are meant to be lofty. Expectations are meant to be low. Because when you have lofty goals, you aspire and push yourself. But when you have lofty expectations, you know what happens? You get crushed by the weight of them. You fall short, you hate everything. But when your expectations are low, this is my goal, God, this is what I want to happen, and I'm okay with where it lands. Now, I've left it in God's hands. Now I've left it in God's hands. So, apathy comes from not having goals at all and not doing your part. The Christian life, everyone here should understand this, the Christian life is meant for hard work. In Genesis, the first thing Adam was given when he was exited from the garden, you're going to toil, all right? You're going to get to working. You're going to sweat. And that's how you're going to make your food, okay? So man was always meant to work. So if you don't do work, then you're not living the calling from God. You understand? The second part of that is your expectations. You can't expect that it's going to go the way you want. I told the expectations about Isaac in the bathroom a few weeks ago. I'm not going to tell it again. So, but the whole point is no, that's not what I meant to say. What I meant to say is our expectations always have to be low, but our goals need to be high. That is how we pursue God's path. But then when we're at that point of goals, where we're like, okay, I'm shooting for this, but my expectation is low, then I can submit. Because I'm going to do my best, but I don't know where it's going to land. Now I got to leave it in your hands. And the thing that's hard about that, guys, is that when we actually do that work of submitting, like we know we're going to lose something. That goes back to the third point about letting go. We know that doing the godly thing is probably going to hurt. And because the godly thing is probably going to hurt, we don't want to do it. Because it doesn't match the expectation. The expectation is a happily ever after. The expectation is everybody gets along. The expectation is that we don't suffer. Well, there's your problem. Set high goals. Be okay with where they land, knowing that you did the best you could. And now let God take it where it should stand. Okay? Good question. Anything else? I was going to ask Al if you wanted me to finish the rest of the relationship questions because there was still like 25. But I think we're retired. I think we're good. Any other questions? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Sold. Glory be to God forever and ever. Amen. Let's pray.